the smiling blonde with a secret in his freezer, the real story of maniac Jeffrey Dahmer. The quiet, tall, blonde man with glasses always smiled when we met him. He never stopped grinning, even when police officers broke down the door of his apartment in July 1991. Investigators found a human hid in the refrigerator and 2 more in the freezer. So, after 13 years of searching for the mysterious serial killer, Dahmer was able to be apprehended in his hometown of Milwaukee. "I can't believe I was so stupid. I never thought I'd get caught like this. I was always very careful," he told homicide detective Patrick Kennedy after he was captured. How did a child become a maniac? In searching for the causes of human cruelty, it is common to turn to the childhoods of killers. People who know the details claim that Jeffrey Dahmer went down a crooked path from early childhood. The problems were compounded when those around him were not interested in asking why the young man was acting strangely in public and so detached from reality. Jeffrey Dahmer was born in 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. His childhood was marred by constant competition with his younger brother for adult attention. At the age of 6, Jeffrey underwent surgery to repair a bilateral inguinal hernia, after which he became even more withdrawn and vulnerable. It is said that he long felt that he was deprived of his manhood. The maniac's father later told a correctional officer that Jeffrey had been sexually abused by a neighbor when he was 8 years old, but Dahmer himself denied it. When Jeffrey was in high school, his parents divorced. This had a serious psychological impact on both brothers. As a teenager, Jeffrey began to drink alcohol. His behavior suddenly polar changes during the day. He could sit motionless for hours, and his gaze was directed as if through the interlocutor. Later, the killer's father said that the first signs of the child's violent tendencies were simply ignored. Experts wondered why the parents were not disturbed, for example, that the son stored in formaldehyde and dissected animal corpses. But at that time, the unusual hobby of the guy loved ones associated not with a love of blood, but with an interest in science. The fact that Dahmer's father, Lionel, was a research chemist, and this is very fascinating to the guy. First blood, Dahmer committed his first murder at the age of 18, a few weeks after his parents divorced and he graduated from high school. At the time, the elder Dahmer and his brother were away, and Jeffrey was on his own. When he met 17-year-old hitchhiker Stephen Hicks on the street, he invited him home for a drink. The two of them drank beer, and when Hicks wanted to leave a few hours later, Dahmer stunned him with a dumbbell to the head and strangled him, then dismembered the corpse, put it in garbage bags and drove into the woods, where he scattered the bags far apart. He wrapped the head of the murdered man in several layers of packing film and put it in the refrigerator. After a while, feeling his impunity, Jeffrey wanted to try again. At this time, he entered Ohio University, but because of laziness and constant drinking, was kicked out of there after 3 months. Infuriated father advised his son to go to the army and learn to be a nurse. After 6 months of service, Dahmer caught in a new scandal. 2 soldiers said that he drugged them and raped them, but for some reason the case did not come to court. In 1981, Dahmer was found unfit for military service and demobilized. After that, his disgruntled father sent him to his grandmother in Wisconsin for re-education. In the basement of her house, the serial killer would commit most of his crimes. "I didn't like killing. Killing was just a necessity. It was an act I didn't like at all. That's why I tried to create living zombies using sulfuric acid and a drill, but it didn't work for me. No, the goal was not to kill, but to possess a certain person so that they would be under my control at all times, not considering their desires, but only doing what I wanted. It's not easy to say that, but yes, that was my goal," Dahmer said in an interview with Stone Phillips, where he spoke candidly about his atrocities for the first time. "If I could not kill, I wouldn't have gone through with it, but I couldn't. And if they let me go once, it's not a fact that I won't do it again." In all, Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer killed 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991. The gruesome murders involved rape, necrophilia, and cannibalism. Arrest. In 1991, Dahmer invited Tracy Edwards to his apartment. The killer attempted to handcuff him, but Edwards broke free and ran outside with the handcuffs dangling from his left hand. He attracted the attention of two police officers who decided to go up to the suspicious apartment. There they found pictures of dismembered corpses and fragments of human bodies. 3 heads, a human heart, and other viscera were found in the refrigerator. Many serial killers keep mementos of their victims as trophies. Trophies are usually IDs or articles of clothing, but few keep body parts of their victims because of loneliness. The average serial killer would have the good sense to try to mask the odor. It's terribly inconsiderate, said Dr. Park Dietz, a forensic psychiatrist and consultant to the FBI Academy's Behavioral Sciences Division. The court found Dahmer sane and guilty of 15 counts of murder and sentenced him to 15 life terms, the equivalent of 957 years in prison. In 1994, Jeffrey Dahmer and another inmate, Jess Anderson, were bludgeoned to death in a prison shower room by Christopher Scarver, who was serving time for a double murder. No marks were found on Jeffrey's body to indicate that he had defended himself, and all the blows were aimed directly at his head. At the suite of the relatives of Dahmer's 11 victims, his estate was distributed among them. In 1996, Thomas Jacobson, a lawyer representing the victims, announced plans to hold an auction to sell Dahmer's belongings, including a refrigerator and murder weapons. The estimated proceeds were to be $1 million. The news sparked outrage in the killer's hometown. An action group was formed and raised $407,225 to buy the items before the auction and destroy them.